Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the honor code. We, as members of the Council, value all for respect, responsibility, honesty, and equality. We agree public service for the school community. And please remain standing as our combined middle school chorus sings the Star Spangled Banner under the direction of Mrs. Alvarado. Please be seated. Good morning, and welcome students, faculty, and guests to our annual Veterans Day Assembly. My name is Zoe Berry, and I'm the student body president here at the Pine School. We're here today to honor our heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage and dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. I'd like to take a moment and ask any current service members and veterans to please stand. Service. 105 years ago, at the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, fighting ceased in what was hoped to be the war to end all wars. Accordingly, allied nations with whom the American people fought also observed today as Armistice Day. In 1954, our Congress officially designated today as Veterans Day to honor all women and men who fought valiantly in conflicts and also served in peacetime. As we honor them, we should also remember the words of President John F. Kennedy, who said, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them." The men and women of the armed forces made sacrifices none of us can fully repay. We can, though, find ways within our own lives to live out the liberties that they have provided for us. Do your part to spread the message of pluralism and freedom to all those around you by studying our history. Give back to your community. Spread democracy by encouraging others to vote. The Pine School History faculty will help you understand the structure and origins of our national constitution. But ensuring that the rights of the minority are not trampled by the majority requires the daily diligence of you and I, the citizens who safeguard our norms. The framers of our Constitution handed down to us a remarkably brief document. It was the later generations who took this republic and turned it into a vibrant democracy. That is to say, they made it a system in which we, the people, select our leaders, and perhaps our future. Our civic ancestors created for us a democratic form of government, called a republic, in which our people express their voice by selecting a member of our community to represent us in Tallahassee and Washington, D.C. Democracy also means that sometimes we get to vote the rotten ones out of office as well. Since the first peaceful transition of power in 1800, we have rejoiced in the right of ordinary plain folks to cast a ballot. Who protects this right? In one sense, we all do. But in another, our servicemen and women protect our rights in a unique role. We built our democracy incrementally. In the 1820s, we created state laws which enabled all white men to vote. We improved upon this when our Congress declared in 1870 that all men, regardless of color, are entitled to vote. But the American people were not done. The spirit of democracy took a leap forward in 1920 when we amended our Constitution to recognize the right of women to cast a ballot. In 2023, we have perhaps finally achieved what the Constitution calls a more perfect union. Maybe. Perhaps my generation will take up the mantle and further spread democracy to the powerless. I think we will. This morning, we put aside the white-hot partisanship of our election cycle and celebrate those in our armed forces who join us in protecting our democratic republic. While Memorial Day is our nation's moment to honor those who, in the words of President Lincoln, gave the last full measure of devotion and died while serving in the armed forces, Veterans Day is our opportunity to honor all who have served. This morning, our small community celebrates our fellow knights who are, as we speak, serving in all 5 branches of the military. Grayson Gardner, class of 2014, serves in the Army. Both Alec Renfro, class of 2011, and Icho Billy, class of 2020, serve in the Navy. CJ Skelly, class of 2013, is a Marine, and Shane Toner, class of 2011, serves in the Air Force. I now invite back to the podium our Student Body Vice President, Amelie Galbraith, class of 2024, to read this year's presidential proclamation.
The generations of women and men who have served and sacrificed, not for a person, a place, or a president, but for an idea unlike any other, the idea of the United States of America. For nearly 250 years, our veterans have defended the values that make us strong so that our nation could stand as a citadel of liberty, a beacon of freedom, and a wellspring of possibilities. Today, I am thinking of all our nation's veterans who put their lives on the line to protect our democracy, values, and freedom around the world. We honor our wounded warriors, so many of whom the First Lady and I have met over the years, who are bound by a common sense of duty, courage, and optimism. And we remember those who are still missing in action or prisoners of war, and I renew my pledge to bring them home. Our military families, caregivers, and survivors also answer the call to serve. I remember so clearly the pride I felt in our son Bo during his service in Iraq, as well as those mornings I saw the First Lady saying a prayer for his safe return. Our veterans and their families give so much to our nation, and we owe them a debt we can never fully repay. This Veterans Day, may we honor the incredible faith that our veterans hold, not just in our country, but in all of us. They are the solid steel backbone of our nation, and we must endeavor to continue being worthy of their sacrifices by working towards a more perfect union and protecting the freedoms that they have fought to defend. In respect and recognition of the contributions of our veterans and their families, caregivers, and survivors who have made wars to the peace and freedom around the world, the Congress has provided that November 11th of each year shall be set aside as a legal public holiday to honor our nation's veterans. Now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim November 11, 2023 as Veterans Day. I encourage all Americans to recognize the valor, courage, and sacrifice of these patriots through appropriate ceremonies and private prayers, and by observing 2 minutes of silence for our nation's veterans. I also call upon federal, state, and local officials to display the flag of the United States of America and to participate in patriotic activities in their communities. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand this 7th day of November, in the year of our Lord 2023, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 248th. Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
Next, I'd like to invite our kindergarten class to take the stage to begin our next song. Our combined upper school band will accompany the entire lower school in singing our annual Armed Forces medley, which recognizes all five of our military branches. Veterans in the audience, please stand when your song is played so we may recognize you for your service. So please welcome the upper school band conducted by Mr. Michael Rossi.
Vinny Caffrey. I'm proud to introduce our speaker to you this morning. He joined our faculty 2.5 years ago after moving from Maryland to Florida with his family. Mr. Jeff Shirk is the Pine School's athletic director and came to us with over 20 years of coaching and athletic administrative experience at the collegiate level. He earned his bachelor's degree in elementary education from the University of Maryland and his master's degree in athletic administration from Arkansas State University. After graduating from the University of Maryland as a standout on the men's lacrosse team, Mr. Shirk began his professional career at the Naval Academy Preparatory School, where he served at the United States Navy. It is because of his military service that he speaks to us today. While serving from 2001 to 2004, Mr. Shirk was stationed in Newport, Rhode Island, holding the position of Associate Athletic Director and Head Boys Lacrosse Coach at the Naval Academy Preparatory School. While at NAPS, he was tasked with helping cadets achieve academic and athletic success in their quest to be admitted to the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. 7 of Mr. Shirk's 20-plus years coaching collegiate lacrosse were spent at military institutions. His former players at NAPS and at the Virginia Military Institute have gone on to serve in all branches of the military, with many earning their way into special forces. Our students have found that Mr. Shirk holds them to high standards of effort and commitment, but always does so with a kind, encouraging, and in a positive way. His professionalism and his kind demeanor quickly earned him the respect of his colleagues. We are so proud to have this veteran on our faculty and among our administration. I invite you to join me in welcoming our speaker today, Lieutenant Junior Grade Jeff Shirk.
Give me a second to get down these steps. So I am more about being on the sideline than being up in the press box. So I asked if I could come down here to speak to everybody. Everybody here, be okay? I'm good? Awesome. All right, so let's make this interactive to start, okay? So with our Pine student body, all right, by raising your hand, who here has a family member? A parent, an uncle, I know you all have family members. Wait for me to finish. Put your hands down. Put your hands down. That is an elementary school faux pas right there. I learned that on day 1 of my student teaching. All right, so who here has a family member that served in the military? So an aunt, an uncle, a brother, sister, grandparent. All right, so it looks like the majority of our student body has some sort of family member that served in the military. So let me ask you this question. All right, who can raise their hand? I'll call on you, but who can raise their hand and give me your best guess of the percentage of the American population that is served in the military? Percentage of American population that is served in the military. Go ahead, what do you think? 55%, that is ambitious, I love it. What do we got? 75%. All right, we can go hands down. 7% of the American population has served in the military. 7%. All right, that is a small minority of the population. All right, so what I'm getting at is we celebrate Veterans Day because it's a very special group of people that make the choice to serve our country. So that is why we are honoring them today. All right, so with that being said, let's talk about my experience in the military. Okay, because I have a very unique experience in the military. I do not have a traditional path to the military. So my 3rd year in college, I was a business major. So for my first 3 years, studied business, did my internships, did all that kind of stuff. Woke up right before the summer, after my 3rd year, and said, I don't want to do this. I do not want to go into business. I don't like what I'm doing. I enjoy being around kids. I enjoy coaching, so I switched to education. All right, well, what that did, that bumped me from a 4-year plan to a 5-year plan. All right, because in order to get my credits, in order to do student teaching, I needed that 5th year. Well, I was super fortunate that my 5th year the coach at the University of Maryland asked me to stay on as an undergrad assistant coach, allowed me to keep my scholarships, so it'll help pay for my education. And during that 5th year, all right, of being an undergrad assistant coach, we played the Naval Academy. And made a connection with those coaches. The Naval Academy prep school job came open, so my Maryland coaches got a phone call, asked if I was interested. I went over and interviewed and was fortunate enough to get the job at Navy Prep. All right, well, this is where it got interesting for me. So I had 0 military experience. I did not think that I had aspirations to go into the military. Well, in order to be the assistant athletic director and the head boys lacrosse coach at Navy Prep, I had to be commissioned into the United States Navy. So, let me paint this picture. Let me paint this picture for you. All right, so, showed up at the Naval Academy. Borrowed John Tillman's dress whites, which you see me there, up there on your left. Those are the dress whites. I borrowed John Tillman's dress whites, who was in the same position that I was getting ready to go into at the Naval Academy, to get sworn in as an officer in the United States Navy. 0 training. No training. None whatsoever. Spent my first 2 weeks at the Naval Academy, kind of trying to learn the ropes, doing whatever, then they shipped me up to Navy Prep as an ensign in the Navy, knowing nothing about what I needed to do. So I showed up at Navy Prep, didn't have a uniform. They took me to get a uniform. I didn't know who to salute, so they started teaching me who to salute, and I had my crash course. It was so bad and terrifying for me that I would not go outside in my uniform. Because if you went outside in your uniform, you had to know who to salute, who was going to salute you. You had to know your stuff. So I would put my PE gear on every single time I had to go outside. Right? My office was right at the end of the building. I had to walk from here to that wall to get to the gym, the locker room, the weight room, the laundry room. I would take my uniform off, put my PE gear on to walk across the street because I was terrified that I would do something wrong. All right, it gets better my first month in the Navy. All right, so we had to do Navy things. All right, we had to stand CDO. All right, Naval Academy Prep School. There's 300 plus kids who go there. And I say kids, they're anywhere from 18 to 20-year-olds. All right, well, someone has to oversee them at night. All right, so when you stand CDO, command duty officer, you're there from 8 a.m. in the morning until 8 a.m. the next morning. So you're there for 24 hours. All right, so they say, okay, Jeff, we're going to give you an easy one. Your first time standing CDO, it's going to be on Sunday. Show up at 8 a.m. Sunday, kids aren't even around. They show up at 5 p.m. You just make sure they're good to go. They'll get their studying done, get ready for the week. They go to bed, piece of cake, you're out of there the next morning at 8. But boom, show up, perfect, everything's great. 5 o'clock rolls around, kids show back up, check in with the student leadership. All right, everybody's accounted for. Awesome. All right, well, the way the Naval Academy Prep School is laid out is the bottom floor is all the offices and classroom, the second floor are all the dorm rooms. So I check everything upstairs, do my rounds at 5, cruise downstairs, I sit down at my desk, pop open a magazine, start looking at a magazine. All right, about an hour later, I hear a little knock on my door. Poke my head up, it's the gunnery sergeant. And anybody that's in the military, I don't care if you have training or not, when a gunnery sergeant is there, you get a little jittery. All right, so pop my head up, like, hey, Gunny, how are you? He goes, well, sir, I'm doing fine, but I'm not sure you are. Gunny, what do you mean? He goes, well, sir, have you been upstairs lately? No, Gunny, I haven't. He goes, well, you better go look because your battalion is running amok. All right, I just knew that was bad, didn't know what it was. So boom, I popped up, cruised upstairs, Animal House. Just total chaos. Kids up and down the hallway, things everywhere looked nothing like you would expect a military school to look like. All right, so he helped me get everything settled down. Kids went to bed. Next morning, I was in Captain Bull's office. All right, and he had a little chuckle about it because he knew it was my first time standing CEO, and we had a learning moment. But that was my initiation to the military. And why do I say that to this group today? All right, everybody in this group is going to be new at something at some point in your life, or you already have, and you're not going to know what to do. Just like I didn't know how to be a naval officer when I first got to Navy Prep. It was terrifying. I made my mistakes, but you will learn. All right, so when you are getting ready to do something new, make sure you reach out, ask for help, know that there's going to be a learning curve, and don't be too hard on yourself. All right, after my 3 years in the Navy, I had an unconventional time in the Navy, in the military, but I got pretty good at inspections and pretty good at standing CDO, and I knew how to put my uniform on and who to salute. All right, so just know, whatever you do that's new, if you're worried, if you're scared about it, you'll learn it. Just work hard at it, and everything will be okay. All right, now, I want to talk to you about two things today, okay? And it's two people, because one of the biggest things that I took away from a positive from the military are the people that I met. So I want to talk to you about two people in particular that I met and some of the lessons that they taught me, all right? So the first one that I want to talk to you about, all right? This gentleman's name is Eric Capitulli, all right? He was in the Marine Corps. I first met Cap, who everybody, that's what he's affectionately known as. So I first met Cap right when I got into the Navy, before I went up to Navy Prep. I was at the Naval Academy Prep School, and I was helping run their lacrosse team. Cap was there to work it. He just gotten stationed back stateside, and he was great. He went to Navy Prep, played lacrosse at the Naval Academy, had a ton of knowledge. I soaked up all that knowledge, had a ton of questions for him. Well, at the end of Navy lacrosse camp, Coach Meade and Coach Tillman brought me in the office. They go, "Do you know Cap's background?" And I said, "No." They go, "Well, let me show you something." All right, so it wasn't this exact video, but this is the video of what Cap went through when he was in the Navy.
As the platoon commander of 5th Platoon, I'm responsible for all my men and the mission at hand. The mission that particular day was preparing for our upcoming deployment to the Persian Gulf. Looking out the side window, I remember thinking to myself that I could usually see the ship come into view relatively slowly. The only thing I remember thinking was, man, it seems like we're going faster than what we usually do. A couple seconds later, I felt the helicopter slam to the side of the ship. You could hear everybody inside pretty much yell, "Hey, hold on, we're going in."
So Eric Capitulli was on that helicopter training mission. Half of his men didn't make it through that crash. When you talk to Eric about his experience with that, he talks about how terrifying it was, how much of an ordeal it was, how much he loved his men, the ones that made it and the ones that didn't. And so this is an example of extreme adversity. All right, and one thing that I learned from Eric is you can find a positive and you can find a way to move forward in a positive direction no matter how adverse the situation. So what did Cap decide to do? All right, he started training to run Ironman, and he got really good at being a triathlete. Got so good that he was running on the world circuit and got sponsorships. Well, he took that sponsorship money, put it into accounts that were going to pay for the college education for every soldier that didn't make it in that helicopter crash. All right, so one thing right away that Cap taught me, just by getting to know him a little bit, is that you have a choice. And he said this, you have a choice. When you're faced with extreme adversity, you have a choice. How are you going to respond? All right, and he chose to find a positive in an extremely negative situation and help how he could. Okay? I got one more family I want to talk about. All right? And this is the Looney family, and Brendan Looney in particular. Okay? And I was a little closer with the Loonies because the picture on your far right All right, Brendan is number 40. He's the oldest. Stevie's number 8. He's the middle, and then Billy is number 23. He was the youngest. Well, Stevie, number 8, was on my first Navy prep team, and Billy, number 23, was on my second Navy prep team. When I first got to NAPS, the loonies were all over the place because Brendan had already made his mark. Brendan had been there 2 years prior, had such a great reputation, just a phenomenal family. All right, well, all 3 went on to be Navy SEALs, and all 3 played lacrosse, obviously, at the Naval Academy. Brendan was on his second deployment in Afghanistan and was due to come home. The same day that he was due to come home, Andrew Dow, who was in Billy's class at the Naval Academy, was an offensive for the Naval Academy, was due to arrive in Afghanistan on his first deployment. Billy called Brendan and said how nervous Andrew was. Andrew was so nervous for his first deployment and wasn't sure. So what did Brendan do? Brendan prolonged his stay in Afghanistan for 2 weeks. Went and talked to his commanding officer, said, I want to stay for 2 more weeks. I'll take the next flight home after 2 weeks because I want to be here to help Andrew get acclimated, get his feet on the ground, and feel comfortable with what he's doing. On September 21st, 2010, the helicopter carrying Brendan, all right, and carrying Andrew Dow and their men crashed. Brendan Looney did not make it. Andrew Dow was seriously hurt. All right, so word came back to the Dows, word came back, to the Loonies, word came back to the Navy lacrosse family. All right, word came back all across the lacrosse community. All right, and I was so impressed with how Mr. and Mrs. Looney, who are in that picture right there on either side of Brendan, responded. Because Andrew Dow and his family were devastated. Because in their mind, it was Andrew's fault that Brendan was not here. All right, and he was blaming himself. So what's the first thing that the Loonies did? They went to the Dows. They met Andrew when he got back over here. Met him getting off that airplane to make sure that he heard from them that they did not blame him. And then they turned Brendan's life into a total positive. All right, with the Looney Foundation has helped so many people. All right, but again, the point that I'm trying to make is everybody in this room, all right, everybody here, all the students of the Pine School, you are going to face some sort of adversity in your life. And I'm telling you right now that you have a choice in how you want to attack that adversity. And you have a support system here at the Pine School, at home, with your friends, to help you. All right? 2 examples, and I didn't mean to make this a morbid conversation, all right, but 2 examples that really touched me of people that I got to know from my time in the military that had extremely horrific situations happen to them, and they somehow found a way to make a positive and had a support system in place that helped them find some sort of positive in an unbelievably negative situation. All right, so I'm hoping that through my experience a little bit, all right, you guys take a couple things away. 1, you're going to be new at something you do. You're going to be intimidated. Just work at it. Just work at it. You won't be the newbie forever. All right? And 2, you're going to face some adversity in your life. All right? Make sure that you understand that happens to everybody. You have a support system. You can ask for help. And you have a choice mentally of, how do I want to attack this? How do I want to attack this? All right. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Ms. Caffrey, Mr. Osborne, the Pine School family for letting me talk to you. And thank you to all of our veterans. All right, go Knights.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shirk, for sharing your thoughtful words with us today. One more round of applause for Mr. Shirk. for those veterans who have died and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for their country. In Flanders Fields was written by John McCrae on a cloudy April afternoon in 1915 as a symbol of remembrance for the staggering number of those who lost their lives fighting. McCrae dashed it off from the back of an exhaust ambulance soon after leading an impromptu funeral service for a friend. Not long after, McCrae himself would die, but the poem began the use of the poppy to symbolize the memory of those killed in service. Please stand for Resuscitation by Sophia Leach.
The poppies grow. Between the crosses grow. In Flanders fields, the poppies grow. Between the crosses row on row. At Margaret Place and in the sky, the lark still bravely singing, lies scarce heard amid the buds below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt love, saw sunset grow, love and no love, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take out our flow with the flame. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch, and yours to hold it high. If ye bring faith with us who die, we shall not sleep for poppy soul and Flanders fields.
You may now be seated, and I welcome the